Hello, everyone. This is Tom, your host for the Hidden Truths channel. How's everybody doing this evening? The live broadcast, live stream tonight is going to be about how Trump has failed his voters, and I'll say America too. That's what we're going to discuss. Probably a little touchy subject with some people, but I don't really care because he promised a few things that haven't come through, and, you know, it's just doesn't sound like campaign trails going on right now. Anyway, we're going to say how I feel some of the ways he's failed the voters. Okay. Anyway, we'll talk. We'll talk about that in a couple minutes. If you're watching the replay, go about 3 minutes into the video. I start getting some people coming in and stuff because they send out notifications. I start talking. So anyway, I put out a video today. You know, I get a lot of comments on YouTube calling me crazy and stuff. And, you know, not necessarily I'm going to disagree with these people because, you know, I was a Marine. Okay, yeah. You know, they tend to make you a little crazy so you do what you want to do. But anyway, you know, this is what happens when you live in the Twilight Zone, right? I mean, in the Twilight Zone, the person that was the normal, sane person who had slipped into the Twilight Zone would always be losing their mind and stuff. And everybody look at him, well, what's wrong with him and stuff? So, you know, if people that exist in the Twilight Zone, remember it's morality over reality. So these people that are living in their own reality think that I'm crazy in their reality. That's fine, because I'll live in my reality and be sane. But anyway, I just love the comments because, hey, all I got to say is I went to the VA and the VA says I am just fine. So anyway, but you know, these are the comments you get on YouTube. All the hate. You know, let's not talk, let's hate each other. But anyway, let's get into the subject of tonight. How Trump has failed his voters. And I'd say America. You look like you just broke out of prison. No, I just been working all day. I'm out here in the sand hills of Nebraska working my ass off in the pastures fencing. Sorry, no prison life for me. Well, unless you call living in this country, you know, there's basically prison walls. You know, I guess in a way we all live in a prison, don't we? Some of us, the walls are just a little closer. But let's talk about how Trump has failed. First, what was the biggest thing about the election? Immigration, right? I should deport you. Okay, well, whatever. I guess when they start deporting vets, then we're all really screwed, aren't we? I love it how I get these comments, and I'm a vet in this country. So now vets need to be deported? Is that the best way so you guys can get your way? Anyway, I'm not going to get into that discussion. You guys can discuss that. See, this is the thing. When I start my broadcast, I got to type, no, this is not meant for children. But they don't say nothing about adult children. So let the chat deal with the adult children. I'm going to get on with the subject. But immigration. That was the big thing, okay? Because the average guy who's working like me, and you know, my kids are all gone, so I ain't got that expense no more. But people that are trying to raise a family, that are doing time in the trenches, you know, rearing the next generation and stuff, the time in the trenches. We don't want them here. None of them. I got to wear my seatbelt. These guys got to wear their seatbelt. They got to pay their taxes. Okay, we got to live a legal life. We don't want them here. None of them. They came across the border illegally. That's it, their history. They can't do it the legal way they need to go. But Trump, oh, I kicked out a few here, a few bad ones. You know, I'm sure they're still coming across the border, still sneaking across. And they ain't ever going to close the border. But, you know, I think he needs to sit there and put a bounty of $1,000 on every illegal's head. Since they were given thousands of dollars when they crossed the border, what's a $1,000 bounty given to an American who brings them into an area where the ICE collects them and ships them back away? and let any American that can prove, paperwork they're American, let them be able to collect the bounty. These people that are here illegally would be, within 90%, within 48 hours, 90% would have left the country. And if, you can't get them out of the house, you sit there and call ICE. Hey, I got 20 of them in this house. ICE gives you $20,000, you go about your way, and ICE arrests them all. American people, the working person, get pissed off at the shit. But I guess you got to be politically correct, right? And then what's politically correct mean that nowadays that the American taxpayer gets screwed over. That's what politically correct means. Things won't get better for a while. Well, we're going to see, this ain't going to end till the shooting starts. As a vet, I know this. As a student of history, I understand this. And thank God, as a Marine, and a vet, I'm ready to go and defend the Constitution. But it's not going to end. No, nobody's going to go into office and just end this shit, and we're all going to sing Kumbaya, and the debt's just going to, let's not forget about the debt. So anyway, and that's the next thing, how he's failed us, the debt. So he brings in Doge, right? And then him and Elon Musk found a lot of stuff that wasn't right, spending money that wasn't right. Okay, and what happened between that? It's not like Trump ain't spending money like a drunken sailor again, like he did the first term, spending our money. Let's see, are we spending money from now the 5th generation that isn't born yet? Are we messing with their future? What kind of people do that? You hear stories about parents that take credit cards out against their kids' Social Security number. They're pieces of shit. We all know that. But we got our government spending the 5th generation that hasn't even been born yet, spending their money. And they got to pay it back. And that's the only way to look at it. The deeper we go into debt, the future generations are going to hate us. Big time. But just spending money like a drunken sailor, okay? That's another way he failed us, all right? The Epstein list. Need I say more? Now, I realize Trump, when that subject even comes up in any royalty or world leader or any type of politician from all over the world, or Saudi Arabia especially, are just calling him nonstop, don't you dare let that list up. Do you think what we have to say as puny voters, he knows we can never vote for him again? We're never going to get to see the Epstein list because it will decapitate a lot of governments, royalty, CEOs of companies will be gutted, Hollywood will be gutted. We will never see it unless the American people stand up and take our country back. And then all the secrets, imagine all the secrets we're going to find out. Okay, but the Epstein list. Like you say, how is Ghislaine Maxwell? And then I find out she's a daughter of a Mossad agent. How does she end up going to prison for trafficking children when there's no clients? Really? But we all know who the clients are. Now, I'm not saying Trump is on the list like Elon Musk said, but, release the list. Yeah, release the list. Let's see what went on with Epstein at Epstein Island. Let's see, were you missing your daughter or your son back in the 80s and 90s, just disappeared off the street? Could never find him? Oh, got video of him on Epstein Island or her on Epstein Island getting sacrificed? This is how stupid it can go. Why I will never, ever come out, because it will show how sick and twisted and cruel human beings can actually be. And then those are the people that are in power. Sorry, I ain't watching this chat. Wait, who's this guy talking about? I just got here. Oh, I'm talking about the Epstein list. How Trump's failed his voters. Remember, he can come up with the Epstein list? Okay. Going to end the war in Ukraine. Okay, all he had to do for that was stop funding the war. And Zelensky, within 2 weeks in Russia to attack, Zelensky would have been begging for peace in 2 weeks. But now Trump, since he could go in there, it's not our war, it's between Zelensky and Putin. So who's Trump to come in and sit there and say, you guys got to do it my way or it's a highway. And then I'm going to hate Putin and we're going to keep supporting Zelensky and Ukraine. It's crazy. At least his first term, he kept us out of war, except for the Syria incident 3 months after he took office. That was a complete failure, I'd say, too. He kept us out when the war hawks were pushing him. Okay? But that's just another war to support, right? And now we're all supposed to hate Putin. Trump hates Putin. He can't be talked to. Then let's get the hell out of the war. Period. End of story. No more weapons. No more shit. No more nothing. Because if we don't get out of there, eventually our people, your children will be going to that war. Okay? I got all girls. I ain't got to worry about my kids going to war. But if you got sons, because where else is it going to go? I mean, we keep sending them money. Well, what happens when they run out of people? Because we can just turn on the printing presses, so we'll never run out of money, right? And then this bombing, Mega's upset about this bombing in Iran. Okay, and then we're hearing two different what actually happened, and this now, what the one deal with the bombings is Iran can now have the moral ground in creating a nuclear bomb to defend themselves, and the world will be behind them. I mean, you got nuclear powers of the world that are offering them nuclear weapons. Okay, and they'll just build complexes. If they did destroy their complexes to where they can't be used no more, they'll just rebuild them in a way where they can't be destroyed. It'll be one up on the other one, one up on the other one. I mean, how much did that bombing mission cost the American taxpayer? $5 billion, maybe? Anyway, and I don't believe a president no more should have the authority to do that. If you're going to do something that could cause a nuclear exchange, you should have to go through Congress first, okay? For sure. But anyway, when you get one president that does it, another one does it, and then on both sides doing it, and then, it's just a normal thing. But he failed us. We're closer to war than we were when Biden was in office. What I mean by war is he hasn't ended the Ukraine, so that's continuing going. And now we could be at war with Iran. I just don't see Iran after the U.S. dropping 14 bombs. And let's say they took out a lot of their nuclear stuff and just giving up and allowing NATO troops to walk their streets and stuff. And Russia's just going to deal with their southern flank with NATO bases on the southern flank. I don't see it, okay? Every president that's come through should be like him. I'm just talking how he failed us, okay? And then, all the talk when he's talking. Another thing that pisses me off about Trump, I'll be straight up honest with you, is the trolling shit. You're the president of the United States. Don't act that way. You don't need to sit there and troll the other side to piss them off. You're supposed to be the president for everybody. And you got to admit he trolls people to piss them off. Act presidential, knock that shit off. I'm sick of it. That just creates division. Okay, that's one thing. I can't stand with him. Okay? It's just so unpresidential when he does that shit. But anyway, another thing, how has he failed us? You know, he sat there and said he was going to get rid of the Department of Education, downsize the government. Talked about getting rid of the IRS and income taxes. You know, stuff that just makes the working man just thrilled to no end. I mean, do you realize if they got rid of the IRS and big companies, especially big companies, didn't have to deal with all the people they had to hire to deal with the IRS and all that stuff and the extra 7.5% in Social Security and all that stuff? They had got rid of all that. Every employee could get a 15% raise overnight. You see what the government's taking you? I mean, it's bad enough they take income tax from you. But then you could get an extra 15% in your paycheck if your company didn't have to pay the fee to pay these people for the government requirement of paying the IRS. So you actually get charged double if you look at it that way. You know, I'm glad he's talking about changing the Department of Defense back to the Department of War. You know why? Because if it's the Department of War, that means that the funding should increase every year. That means we can get rid of the military-industrial complex. That means we can downsize to a peaceful nation, peaceful military. And when we go to war, then the Secretary of Defense gets like special authority. And we go into a war state where all Americans suffer. You know, this is the thing. We can go to war, but not all Americans suffer. During World War II, all Americans suffered. And everybody knew that the suffering would only end when the war was over, so it was best to work their asses off to support the war. Every American. Rosie the Riveter. Liberty Gardens. God, they just had, recycling up the ass. Must can't let the... You are delusional. Why? That's the way it used to be. You know, back in World War II, you had a ration book, ration stamps. And yeah, there was a black market that was created, but it didn't matter if you had all the money in the world. If you didn't have the ration stamp to buy it, you didn't get it. Now imagine if they went to digital currency and they started rationing stuff during World War time. You're talking about complete control then. That's scary. But anyway, one thing about this channel, if you like the content, I'm never going to ask for donations or super chats or stuff like that, or sell stuff on this channel. If you want to support the channel, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so you can sit there and get all the new content that I'm putting up. That drives YouTube just crazy. I tell you what, I get some comments sometimes. The thing is, on YouTube, right, I only got 300 subscribers, but I have almost 1,400 return viewers. So that means I got over 1,000 people that come back every day just to sit there and be pissed off at what I have to say. How rich are you? I'm a very humble man. I have no debt. I like living a poor man's life. I'm very happy and content with what I have. What I have is paid for. But I believe that dollar bill, that money is a necessary evil in today's world. A necessary evil. And I'm going to partake in as least of it as possible. Yes, I have the ability and have in my time made a good chunk of change, but I've given that up to be a humble person. I didn't feel, I just, when I was in the Marine Corps and I traveled the world, I saw what money did. And I despised it then. Especially after the fall of the Soviet Union, and I just despised money and what it did, what we were allowed to do because we were the rich United States, rich and powerful United States. And then in this country now, if you are successful, you get punished. I'm not going to work a third of my year or more so I can pay into the government a ton of money. Screw that shit. I will make less a year than what I used to pay in taxes. I will stay underneath the radar so they have no reason to come after me. To the government, I don't need nothing from the government. I will never go collect Social Security or Medicaid or Medicare. I got the VA, that helps with that. But I will never take a dime, no matter how much I paid in from it for Social Security. Screw that shit, because it's just a control thing. I live a very humble life, a life that a lot of people couldn't live. I mean, besides for my rent, I live off about $600 a month. I like it that way. It gives you a lot more leniency and ability to do a lot more things freely when you're not tied down to the dollar bill. You can sit there and kind of start seeing the trees through the forest, you might say. So that's my deal on mine. But I don't have a problem with anybody being rich. In the industry I work in, cattle industry, everybody you work for is a millionaire. They all work their asses off too. But I've been in golf courses in Florida, in mansions and stuff with rich people. I never had a problem fitting in. I never hold it against somebody for being rich. I would never have a problem having a rich girlfriend. The only problem is she would have to let me be poor. So I don't know how that would work. I mean, I like living the humble life. It keeps me closer to God. Keeps me closer to understand what's important in life. Keeps me centered. Okay? I'm not going to chase a dollar bill. I'd rather chase my next adventure, my next experience, my next bit of knowledge I get to learn, that type of stuff. Stuff that's going to help me enhance my future. It make me grow as a human being and as a moral human being. And that's one thing about becoming a moral human being. It's not just from always hearing good stuff. You need to hear the counter argument and stuff. And that's what would be nice about these social media platforms, if we could have open dialogue with the other side, like it used to be. Something's living rent free in his. When you stand up for yourself, or like this, do you want to live as a slave? What's living rent free in my mind? Seeing what's going on in this world, and knowing that my children and my grandchildren, my children are struggling harder than their mother and I did to raise a family. It's getting harder on them. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's because we're probably $20 trillion in debt more than we were when I was raising them. And my grandchildren, how are we supposed to, the children are the future of this country, right? How are we supposed to have a future if the children don't have a future? And that's not supposed to eat at me? Really? And I'm not supposed to care about the United States of America. I've seen the bad parts of the world, and I see them coming here. I would ask, why are we going all over the world to do this? So we don't have to fight it on our own shores. And now it's coming here. But don't get excited, all right? Don't get excited that we got to New York's about to be taken over by a Muslim communist. Don't worry about that. And that the average taxpayer is going to have to pay to rebuild the city he destroys. Just like we're having to rebuild California and saving that from total destruction from the Democrats. But don't get excited. Really? You know, I'm an American. I like this country. I love the Constitution so much, in this country so much, and the American culture so much, and what the Constitution and the Founding Fathers stood for so much, that I joined the Marine Corps and decided I was willing to put my life on the line to protect all of that and the American people, no matter how they believed. Now, like I say, you think I got a screw loose? I got one question for you. When the enemy's at your doorstep, right at your sidewalk on your property, who do you want in that foxhole in your yard? Me or some new age soy boy? You know, to do the stuff you have to in the military, especially the ground side, they got to make you a little nuts. They got to make you a little real tight coiled spring. I know this. And that's one reason I take the jobs I do, so people don't have to endure me. But see, here on social media, if you don't like it, you can get off. But like I say, I have over 1,000 people coming back to my channel that aren't subscribers every day. So that means the word's getting out. I mean, we're talking about how Trump has failed us. This should be something that both Republicans and Democrats can agree on. Okay? So where were we? With the wars, the financial, Trump and his stupid trolling stuff. Oh, I'm so tired of that. Okay. Anyway, as a voter, I mean, this is the thing with the Democrats, okay, that I admire about Democrats. Oh my God, do I admire something about Democrats? Because the Democrats do tell the truth. Their candidates get up there and tell the truth. You know, like Beto when he sits there, hell yeah, I'm going to take your AR-15s. They're telling the truth. They're telling us what they truly believe. You know, Kamala Harris didn't lie through the presidential election. They want to do this. This is how they think. They don't hide it no more because it's become accepted thought. If you are against it, there's something wrong with you, right? You're socially and, shunned. Especially if they could get out with this social credit score, like we kind of deal with on social media. One thing about social media, whether you're right or left, if your social media platform is allowed to be run on the owner's bias, well, it's no longer a free speech platform. And I don't care if it's X, okay, whatever it is. Every American should have a right to get on social media and speak their mind, whether I agree with it or not. Like in the Marine Corps, I didn't just go there to do my job for people that agreed with me. I did it for all Americans. I still don't understand this division they created. That's one thing. I live out here and work out here. Not a lot of people, but I don't understand a lot of this stuff that goes on. All the hate that goes on in this world. I mean, it's crazy time how they promote it. Anyway, so, Trump administration has failed the voters, okay? There's just a lot of things that I don't feel safe still. The country's still going down the major problems of this country haven't been fixed. They're trying to put a Band-Aid here on this sucking chest wound saying, see how much better it looks? When you're looking at it and say, I don't think so. I think he really needs help. Why doesn't he send ICE into Iran? The thing is, ICE is obviously, so, you know, the one thing about agencies, okay, the CIA is international. The FBI is domestic. The ATF is domestic. You know, our bureaus like that. But you got entities in the government that are international that deal with that stuff and stuff that deal with domestic stuff. But, you know, he don't need to send anybody into Iran. I don't know why he did that. I feel like he got talked into it, whether it be by Iran or whatever. But, okay. But this is my deal with Trump. Okay, I want to see The Apprentice. Remember that show? You're fired. It's like I thought he would have come into the White House just a screaming eagle, crazy, after being shot through the ear. It seems like it's, you know, made him a little timid. I mean, that's another thing, Kash Patel. What's the truth on that? We're expected to believe in Butler, Pennsylvania. That's, what was the 18-year-old kid? Climb. People seeing that. Anybody who knows anything about security knows that was impossible. What's the truth behind it? It's like they got the Trump, okay? And he's trying to do the best he can to save face. By the way, it's crazy. It's crazy. But that's all I got for tonight. I appreciate everybody. Is there a way ICE can send lefty Democrats to El Salvador prisons? This is what, okay, this is, you want to come here, be illegal, and you don't want to leave? Like, just say, if they put $1,000 bounty on all illegals' heads and authorize all American citizens to collect that bounty, here, collect them, bring them to this area, we'll take care of them from there, pay your money as you leave, okay? They would all leave within 48 hours. Most of 90% of them would leave. It's not like a lot of money would be spent. They'd leave on their own. You know, when the government needs our help, don't be afraid to ask. Because we're the ones that are paying for this anyway. Is your time worth something? If they get rid of all the immigrants, who's going to get my order wrong at McDonald's? This is the thing. Americans need to go back to work. Downsize the government, get rid of the Health and Human Services Department. Okay, I work in agriculture, ranching, okay? I don't need an immigrant, illegal immigrant, to come up here that I got to compete with. I have competed with jobs against illegals and other people that come in this country legally to work agriculture. Remember, we got 100,000 plus South Africans in this country doing agriculture. And I've had to compete against jobs from those people. And they're, by the government, they're told how much they have to get paid. And it's more than what the average American gets paid. Because at the end of it, they get some of that money they gave in salary back from the government. See, it's just a con. Anyway, I don't need competition. We need people in this country, again, that aren't afraid to pick a tomato. The thing is, see, you could pay tomato pickers a good wage. If we actually looked at the ranch and farming, you know, the agriculture industry, like the oil industry, just as important, with the same safety rules, hourly rules, everything, and they get paid the same. I mean, Saudi Arabia wants to charge us all this money for a barrel of oil, fine. You want a barrel of corn, right? Which I don't know, would be about 4 bushel. Well, yeah, a farmer would love $20 a bushel for their corn. There's markets out there that'll pay that. Then it could trickle down to Americans where they like doing those jobs, but they are hard labor. You know, I sat out in the sun all day today doing fencing. You know, every job with cowboy in isn't riding off into the sunset. Okay? But the days you do get to ride are fun. But, you know, not everything's done on a horse. You know, it's not like I fence on a horse and trailer anymore. You know, I use a side-by-side because it's faster. Ranches are bigger. You know, I got to get around 20,000 acres. I ain't got all summer to do it. You got to get around it in time before the grass starts getting so long that's interfering with the bottom. You can't see the bottom or second to the bottom wire. But, you know, it's just hard. You got to work in cold. You got to work in heat. You got to work with animals. Animals, some of them that want to beat the hell out of you. And some of them do. You got to be tough. And we don't have OSHA that regulates us. We don't get breaks. No. If you're lucky in between sets or do whatever, you know, I sit there and carry my lunch with me now. So I have time. If I get 5 minutes, I can choke some stuff down my throat. Kind of like cold weather training was in the Marine Corps. Had little snacks everywhere. So when you got a little break, get stuff a little bit in your mouth. Get some more calories. That's what it's like. But the fulfillment you get from it. I mean, one thing about you stay healthy. I don't have to spend any time in a doctor's office. I don't have to take any medications. None whatsoever. I have a real hard taking ibuprofen when I have to. Okay? Which is very few and far between. There's benefits from it. And then you also, the best thing about it, you're in a recession-resistant job. Okay, I do jobs that illegals won't even do. But I love doing them. So I guess you could say, is he a little crazy? Probably. Who enjoys going out there fencing in these huge-ass pastures in the heat of the day, digging holes, coming home, just dirty and sweaty, with a smile on his face? But then again, I left home to go to Marine Corps boot camp because Marine Corps boot camp was better than home. And I was writing my recruiter from boot camp telling him how much fun I was having. And that was just the beginning of my Marine Corps career. So, yeah. I'm a glutton for punishment. Anyway, obviously I'm here on YouTube. You get a lot of it. So anyway, yeah, like I said, if you'd like to support the channel, I sure appreciate if you hit the like and the subscribe and the bell notification. Helps the channel grow. You know, the truth has got to get out. When you are afraid of what somebody has to say, I don't care what somebody has to say. I'm confident in my beliefs and my knowledge and my be able to comprehend and be able to read through bullshit when I see it, right? Thank you for subscribing, The Guardian. Okay? But I can filter out the bullshit. Times have changed. You know, we need our country back. We need to take it back so bad. Like I say, we are borrowing money now from our fifth generation that hasn't been born yet. What kind of people do that? Just so we can continue with welfare, with these wars, with giving countries handouts. I mean, there's no way this is going to end good because the American people are paying for it. I mean, we're paying for all these wars. The American taxpayers paying for all these wars. I made a short about this. Maybe if the American taxpayers stopped paying taxes, we'd be one step closer to world peace. If we didn't give our government any money to spend. Like say, how much did that bombing mission cost? Iran just going to rebuild? And, you know, I guarantee you that Iran will be a problem again before Trump leaves office. And I would almost guarantee you again that in Trump's last year office, he ends up bombing Iran again. See, the thing is, he got away with it this time and nothing happened. Okay? And the United States has a problem with always, the stove isn't quite hot enough yet. It's not quite hot enough yet. Ah! But who hurts? The American people. And we're paying for it. See, American people are paying for World War III. And American people get what we pay for. America needs to give up trying to be a global homogeny, give up to China. Yeah, I know. This is the thing. I was part of it. When I was in the Marine Corps, I was part of it. Back when Reagan was in office. I mean, we've been doing that for this long. And before that, projecting our power and our authority. And believe me, going into other countries and doing what the hell we wanted because we were America. I had several MOSs. Old Three Field. I had several MOSs. I had like 7 MOSs, all the way from infantry to the air wing. Anyway, I had quite the time in the service, you might say. I got to do a lot of things that a lot of normal Marines didn't get to do. But that's beside the point. The thing is this farm boy from small town Minnesota, Walnut Grove area, Minnesota, within a year and a half saw 11 different countries, and his eyes were completely open to the way the world works. Talk about shock to your system. And then, anybody who's been in can identify with this, that you don't think about it till you're not doing it no more. I mean, when you're not in your old unit, just when you're not doing it no more and you have time to think, especially when you become a civilian. Right? Isn't that why a lot of us have problems? Anyway, I don't want to get down that road. But anyway, we're still doing it. Why? Why do we need carrier groups all over the world? I mean, if China goes after Taiwan, we believe in the one China policy, I guess, we don't stand a chance. Okay? And China's right there with their supplies and everything right there. We got to ship it across an ocean. Anybody who thinks we can win in a war against China is out of their mind. Like I say, all they got to do is start dropping Chinamen out of airplanes over the United States until there's more Chinamen in this country than Americans. And every one of them is going to have a gun. I mean, what's in China if they sit there and lose 500 million people in a war? I mean, they got more men than women anyway in that country. Remember, if you're a girl that was born, we really want a son. Anyway, stupid stuff that happened. But anyway, yeah, crazy times. So, anyway, yes, Surfi, you're coming in 5x5. One carrier group can do a lot of damage. Yeah, if he wants a Secretary of War, right? Again, I agree. And that means during peacetime, that means when a country is not at war with us and we're not allowed to sit there and just start funding wars all over the nation, then we have 3 carrier groups, or maybe 4. One for the Gulf of Mexico, one for the East Coast, and maybe 2 for the West Coast, one up in Washington and one down in California. Put one in Bremerton and one in San Diego or something. One in Norfolk, and then I don't know where you put Houston, in Texas or something. I mean, America can't afford this. Like I said, we are borrowing money from our children that aren't even born to be paying for this shit. And we're just creating enemies. So anyway, but don't worry, when the American dollar collapses, we won't even have enough money to have 4 carrier groups afloat. We'll be lucky to have 1 on each coast. So much for the welfare system. How's it going, old man? Oh, no, I'm tired tonight. I tell you what, I've been working in the thing as you get older and stuff. You know, it's harder on you. That's why, I'm not really looking forward to going to war to sit there and save our country, because I know it's a physical exerting, war is a very physically demanding sport. So, anyway, I'll tough through it. So, but yeah, you sleep good at night. That's for sure. Especially if you got a nice cool wind blowing through the window, kind of like when you're camping and you got that nice cool wind blowing through your tent. Oh, you just sleep like a baby. A gift from Mother Nature. Like when I was on ship and it wasn't barreling hot in a Berlin area where I was out on deck trying to hide out and sleep out on deck at night. And I'd always get woke up by the watch and then hide out somewhere else. But the rocking to sleep and stuff. Where are you from, old man? I am from Panhandle, Nebraska. I work, I do have a fencing job, fencing business. So I go out to, see, you can't find nobody to do fencing no more, especially out these pastures that are really big. Nobody wants to do it, and you're miles and miles from a town and stuff, civilization. So that's what I do. I got job security, and then I live in the southern part of the Panhandle of Nebraska, where I might add, where I can leave 2 weeks at a time, still not have to lock my door, take keys out of my vehicles, and everything's just fine when I get home. Places like that still exist in America. And I would suggest that if you're a good person, you might look into that. It's also cheap to live out here. Compared to the city, you guys would fall over on the cost, but wages aren't that much. But if you got a good education, thanks for subbing. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's one thing. This channel is never going to ask for donations or super chats. I'm never going to sell anything. I hate going to channels where all you hear is a stupid infomercial, or they're selling something that somebody is paying them money to do a commercial on. I'm so sick of it. I'm here on YouTube to tell the truth. If you want to support the channel, hit the like, the subscribe, and the bell notification. That's the best way to support the channel. Okay, when the channel gets monetized, then the advertisers can pay. Then if you want to support the channel, watch a commercial. But I don't believe what I say should have to be paid for. I'm a person that believes knowledge is free. If I got knowledge that somebody wants to learn and I can pass it on to them, I'm not going to charge them. If it betters their life, why would I charge somebody? Because if I better their life, that'll in turn better somebody else's life. It'll just grow like everything else grows. So anyway. Oh, I've been going for almost 50 minutes. Anyway, I'm going to take off. I had a great live stream. Appreciate everybody being here. A little calmer tonight. Tomorrow may be a different subject. Tomorrow, I'm going to live stream off my computer tomorrow, not my phone. Tomorrow night about 8 o'clock. So I don't know how that's going to work. I haven't live streamed off my computer for a while, if it's going to send out notifications or what. But I want to try it on my computer. But like I say, I appreciate everybody being here. Like I say, it don't matter what side of the political aisle you're on. When we all realize that we're rats on the, or we see the rats leaving the sinking ship, and we're all realize we're on the Titanic and we're going down, and it don't matter what you believe, we're all in the sinking ship together. So when people focus on who the real enemy is and what the real enemy is, destroying your life, I'm supposed to worry about Iran, right? When we got a police force in this government in this country that can basically shoot you down. But I'm supposed to worry about Iran or Russia, right? Like I say, the real enemy. The real enemy is the one who's taking money out of your wallet, spending it on stupid stuff that you would never agree with, and telling you that your neighbor's your enemy and dividing you. I mean, we're so divided now that we got kids divided from their parents, families that don't want family members there during Thanksgiving and stuff. How much more divided can we get? Anybody say Civil War coming? Anyway, but don't worry, I won't get excited. You know, when my ass has to go out and protest, that means I'm going to war. That's how I protest. Okay? Then it's gone too far. Anyway, everybody have a great night, and I will see you guys tomorrow night. This is Tom for the Hidden Truths. I am out.